Hi everyone, how are you? I have another book that I would like to read to you today about Laura Ingalls Wilder and her family. I thought we would read one more before we move on from the topic of traveling west in a covered wagon. It was a very exciting adventure for families who took that journey on, but it was also very difficult and challenging. I'm going to read this story to you and then we'll sing our Kansas song because Laura and her family ended up settling in Kansas. And our Kansas song talks about our state flower and the state bird and has lots of great information in it. So whether you are a Jayhawk or not, as it says in the song, we hope that you can learn a lot from this song. We love singing it on the line together. So we'll sing it together today. And then I'm also going to attach some activities for you to do that have some covered wagon activities and Laura Ingalls Wilder and other things that can kind of tie into what we're talking about today. So this book is called Prairie Day. Once upon a time, a little girl named Laura, her pa and her ma, her big sister Mary and her baby sister Carrie, and their good old bulldog Jack headed west in their covered wagon for the prairie. They drove through the snowy woods until they came to the town of Pepin. Pa went inside the store to trade his furs for things they would need on their journey. Ma and Laura and Mary ate bread and molasses in the wagon, and the horses ate corn from nose bags. Soon they reached a big lake that stretched flat and smooth and white all the way to the edge of the gray sky. The horses' hooves clop-clopped and the wagon wheels crunched as Pa drove the wagon onto the ice. Laura didn't like it, but she knew nothing could hurt her while Pa and Jack were there. At last, the wagon came to a slope of earth, and there stood a little log house among the trees. It was a tiny house for travelers to camp in, and that night Laura and Mary and Ma and baby Carrie slept in front of the fire, while Pa slept outside to guard the wagon and the horses. Every day after that, they traveled as far as the horses could go, and every night they made camp in a new place. They crossed too many creeks to count, and they drove across long wooden bridges. They saw strange woods and stranger country, even with no trees. Those are the Great Prairie. After many days and nights, they came to the Kansas Prairie, a flat land with rippling grass and a great big sky. The wind blew Laura's straight brown hair and Mary's golden curls every which way. Soon, Laura and Mary were tired of traveling with nothing new to look at, and poor Jack was tired too. At last, Pa stopped the wagon and said, "We'll camp here a day or two." He unharnessed the horses, and they rolled back and forth and over until the feeling of the harness was all gone from their backs. Pa cleared a space in the prairie grass for a fire, and Laura and Mary helped Ma get supper. Pa brought water from a creek, and Ma mixed the water with cornmeal and salt and patted it into little cakes. She fried slices of fat salt pork in their iron spider cooker. The cakes baked, the meat fried, and Laura grew hungrier and hungrier. At last supper was ready. Pa and Ma sat on the wagon seat, and Laura and Mary sat on the wagon tongue. Each of them had a tin plate and a steel knife and a steel fork. Ma had a tin cup, and Pa had a tin cup, and Carrie had a little cup of her own, but Laura and Mary had to share their cup. While they were eating supper, the prairie became dark and still, and soon it was past bedtime. Mary and Laura put their long nightgowns on, said their prayers, and crawled into their little bed in the wagon. The next morning, they all sat on the clean grass and ate pancakes and bacon and molasses. And all around them, tiny birds were singing and swinging in tiny voices. "Dickie, Dickie bird," Laura called to them. "Eat your breakfast, Laura," Ma said. "You must mind your manners, even if we are 100 miles from anywhere." After everything in the camp was tidy, Pa went hunting, and Laura and Mary went exploring. It was fun to run through the tall grass, in the sunshine, in the wind. There were huge rabbits and tiny dicky birds everywhere, and little brown striped gophers. Mary and Laura wanted to catch a gopher to take home to Ma. Laura ran and ran, but she could never catch one. They took some flowers home to Ma instead. Before long, the sun was low, and Pa was coming across the prairie. Laura jumped up and ran to him and hippity-hopped through the tall grass beside him. That night, after supper, Pa's fiddle sang in the starlight. The large, bright stars hung down from the sky, and Laura thought the stars might be singing too. Soon it was time for little girls to be in bed, so Ma tied on their nightcaps and tucked them into bed. Tomorrow they must be on their way again to find their new little house on the prairie. There's Jack the bulldog. Thank you for listening to the story about Laura and Mary and their travels across the prairie in Kansas. So next we're going to sing our Kansas song. And this is one where we always sit on the line and find our quiet seated pose, and we pat our legs so we can get the rhythm going. I live in Kansas, my home is Kansas. It's the state out in the west where the people are the best. I live in Kansas, my home is Kansas. I'm a Jayhawker through and through, are you? Cottonwood trees blowing in the breeze, listen to the meadowlark's song, tweet, tweet. Waving wheat smells oh so sweet, sunflowers growing big and strong. I live in Kansas, my home is Kansas. It's the state out in the west where the people are the best. I live in Kansas, my home is Kansas. I'm a Jayhawker through and through, are you? Sunflower seeds. Thanks for joining me, and again, look for those activities and art projects if you want to do those, and I am always happy to see your pictures of the work you do, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care, everyone.